Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome and happy Thankful Thursday to you. On Thursdays, I always encourage you to text me, email me, anything that you're thankful for today. And I encourage you to pause for a minute and think about things that you're thankful for. We're going to be covering a lot of stories today. Like always, it's been a busy one. The Army sergeant accused of opening fire at Georgia's Fort Stewart yesterday wounded 5 fellow soldiers, was subdued by quick-thinking fellow service members soon after the bullet started flying. Now, we have the latest details and his identification. Governor Glenn Youngkin is condemning a Virginia county as being soft on crime when 3 days after walking free from jail, a repeat offender was caught on camera trying to snatch a toddler from her family at a Virginia mall. And at least 16 illegal immigrants were taken into custody yesterday morning during a DHS immigration raid at a Home Depot just outside of Los Angeles. And L.A. Mayor Karen Bass is not happy. Greenville County Sheriff Hobart Lewis describes what went wrong when deputies were shot in a botched SWAT training exercise last week. We have those details as well.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Let's talk about what happened this week down at Fort Stewart, Georgia yesterday. 5 American soldiers, our men in uniform, were shot on U.S. soil by one of their own. So who was the shooter? He was identified as Sergeant Quornelius Radford, 28 years old, stationed at Fort Stewart, assigned to the 2nd Armored Brigade combat team. He's not a foreign adversary. He's not a radical terrorist, or doesn't appear to be. He's not a guy who snuck through the border. He's an enlisted soldier, serving in our Army since 2018. Now, according to reports, Radford opened fire at his workplace using a personal weapon. 5 soldiers were hit. Thankfully, and thank God, they were treated quickly and taken to Wynn Army Community Hospital. Early reports say that their injuries were not life-threatening, but the psychological damage, that's another story, that you're shot by one of your fellow soldiers. Now, let me ask you, what in the world is going on inside of our military that something like this happens? Because let's be clear, it's not an isolated tragedy. This is a flashing red warning light about morale, mental health, discipline, and leadership inside the ranks of our armed forces. Now, this Radford guy had prior arrests, including one just 3 months ago for DUI and blowing through a traffic light. You know what his excuse was then? According to reports, he said, I had to go to the bathroom. That was what was in the police report. I had to go to the bathroom. So he's speeding through this town. So why was he still walking around with a weapon like this? Why was he still in uniform? Where was the chain of command? Where were the red flags along the way? You'd think after decades of the Pentagon talking about mental health and support structures, there'd be a system in place to keep a guy like that in check. He obviously was having some issues. But instead, 5 soldiers got bullets instead of answers. Now, let me tell you what may have happened. Maybe our military leadership over the last 4 years under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has been so focused on DEI checkboxes and sensitivity training that they've lost sight of the core mission: readiness, accountability, and creating that cohesive team of soldiers. You don't build the most lethal fighting force on earth by ignoring breakdowns in discipline. You build it by holding the line. You build it by getting serious when your troops show signs of trouble. But right now, we've got soldiers getting shot by fellow soldiers. We've got recruiting numbers in the toilet. We've got bases being used for political theater and leadership that looks more like a corporate HR department than a military command. Now, President Trump is changing that, and we're seeing a very rapid change. And it can't happen too soon. And here's something that should really fire you up. This Radford, this young man, wasn't even a combat veteran. He never deployed, not once. He joined in 2018, and yet we're being told he somehow got pushed to this point. What happened to basic evaluation? What pushed him to this point? What happened that got him to the point that he wanted to I'm assuming he was trying to kill these 5 men, these 5 fellow soldiers. I mean, I don't think you shoot to just a wound, do you? Thank goodness that's all that happened. Thank goodness it appears they're going to survive. I mean, you don't just wake up one day, bring a gun to work, and shoot 5 of your fellow soldiers out of nowhere. Doesn't this kind of thing kind of brew? Aren't there some signs along the way? Were those signs ignored? And let's not forget, a military base is a gun-free zone for the law-abiding. Even though these are trained, disciplined soldiers, they're often not allowed to carry personal firearms on base unless authorized. Meanwhile, this guy walks in with a personal weapon and opens fire. So law-abiding soldiers, I'm assuming, were disarmed. Dangerous soldier with a rap sheet and clear issues, he's still armed. It's a microcosm of what's happening across the country, is it not? We see it in our cities. Criminals with long rap sheets walking free while law-abiding citizens are told to just deal with it. We see it in our schools, discipline replaced with excuses, and now tragically on a military base. So let's be clear here. Our soldiers deserve better. They deserve leadership that takes threats seriously. They deserve an environment where discipline is enforced and red flags aren't ignored. They deserve a system that prioritizes readiness and not the wokeness of the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration. And again, we can only hope that that's happening quickly, that the change is taking place under President Donald Trump's leadership. They certainly deserve to be able to go to work without fearing their own battle buddy is going to shoot them. Now, Governor Glenn Youngkin had a moment earlier this week when he called out Fairfax County for letting criminals back on the streets. He said parents should be horrified. Well, he's right, and let me add to that. Every American should be horrified that our soldiers can't even feel safe on a military base, a place that should be among the most secure facilities in the country, right? Am I missing something here? Where's the outrage from the left, from the Democrats? Where's the press conference? Where's the accountability? It's probably buried under red tape and political cowardice. So here's what needs to happen, and I think we're going to see this. I mean, I don't want to be too down on the military because I do think that President Trump and Pete Hegseth are making some great strides in turning this ship around. Look, it's only been 6 months. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had 4 years to introduce DEI and the wokeness into our military. It's going to take President Trump a little while to untangle this. I understand that. But Fort Stewart and every other base needs to be serious about internal security. If there's a known risk, act on it. No more excuses. Congress should demand an immediate investigation into the handling of Radford's prior arrest and psychological history. Again, I don't think this has happened overnight. It had to be brewing, right? And maybe it's time for military leadership to stop playing culture games and start getting back to basics. Again, discipline, safety, and be mission focused. This tragedy didn't happen in a vacuum. It's the result of a broken culture inside the institution that's supposed to be protecting you and me. To the 5 soldiers who were wounded, let's pray for them. Pray for their full recovery. These men stepped up to serve our country, and they were betrayed by someone who was supposed to be on their team. That's inexcusable. To the families, we hear you. We see you. We're going to keep calling this out until someone in command finally gets it, and I think he's there. Again, I think President Donald Trump understands that there are some issues in our military that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris allowed to take place under their DEI woke command. Because if we can't protect our troops on their own soil, how are we going to trust the Pentagon to protect us from enemies abroad, and that these men and women are ready and able to protect us? Again, am I missing something here? Love for some of my military listeners to chime in here. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Better yet, leave me a quick message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. This is not something that we just need to just overlook, right? We need to, as Kamala Harris loved to say, get to the root of the issue, get to the root of the problem. And I think the root of the problem is that we still have DEI and wokeness in our military, and it's time that we clean that up. Last week, I told you about a story. It was a scary situation at a mall in Virginia where the security camera caught a person trying to snatch a young child right there in the middle of the mall. Well, that story continues out of Fairfax County, Virginia, where every parent in America needs to listen to this. It's about a toddler, a repeat offender, and a justice system that has completely lost its mind. This gets back to what we were talking about just a minute ago with the wokeness in the military. Last month at a shopping mall, a place, again, where families go to enjoy a little time together, shop. In a lot of cases, you go to the food court and you have dinner. A 26-year-old man, being identified as Andre Jalden, was caught on camera trying to abduct a toddler from the play area. This creep just walks right up, you can see it on the video, grabs a child like she's a backpack and tries to vanish. Well, it gets even worse because now we're learning that he was just out of jail for 3 days. Why? Because Fairfax County let him go. Just walked him right back onto the streets on his own recognizance after a hit and run earlier this month. Let me say that again. He had just been released days before. No bail, no ankle monitor, nothing. He got a free pass. And 3 days later, he's out there trying to steal someone's baby. Why is this allowed to happen? It's not a failure of judgment. It's a failure of just common sense. That's a system that values ideology over safety. It's the real-life consequences of soft-on-crime politics that has taken over a lot of our towns and a lot of our judges and judicial system. Governor Glenn Youngkin nailed it when he said on X, and I'm quoting, "There's a shocking and unforgivable pattern in Fairfax County of releasing criminals back onto Virginia streets instead of keeping them behind bars." And he's 100% right. And it's not just Fairfax County, it's others. Other areas, we're seeing the same thing. Seeing it happen in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Seattle, in New York. And to the so-called Commonwealth's attorney, Steve Descano, the man behind this disgrace, his job is to protect the public, not to pamper criminals. But he's too busy pushing progressive Fantasyland reforms and checking boxes for the left-wing Twitter mob to actually do his job. This is what happens when prosecutors stop prosecuting. This is what happens when ideology replaces responsibility. Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares has stepped up too, saying that he'll investigate why Descano keeps letting dangerous people walk free. Good. There needs to be a little accountability there for once. Because look at the pattern. Hit and run. No problem. Steals a car. Just a warning. Tries to abduct a child in broad daylight in the middle of a mall. Now suddenly we act shocked. Folks, this isn't just about one criminal. It's about a criminal justice system that has completely flipped upside down. We're living in an era where criminals are treated like victims. I told you the story of the death row inmate who was executed this week in Tennessee, and he had a defibrillator, and his attorney had tried to get it delayed because they were afraid that when the lethal injection was used and his heart stopped, that it would try to start his heart again and could potentially cause him pain. As he was dying, he did say that he had pain. Now the left is that they're all over it, that he died a cruel and unusual punishment. It didn't matter that he killed some other people, that he shot and killed his girlfriend and 2 young daughters. But he felt a little pain when he was being executed. And this is what we're hearing all the time. I mean, victims are just like pushed to the side. Criminals are treated better than victims. Prosecutors release thugs back into the neighborhoods and then act surprised when crime skyrockets. Look, this man, Andre Jalden, should never have been on the street. He should have been in jail, not roaming a shopping mall looking for his next victim. In Fairfax County, Steve Descano, he's going to have to own this. He should own it. He should be held responsible. You can't say it was unpredictable. You can't say you didn't know. You had this guy's record. You knew he was dangerous, and you let him go. And a child almost paid the price. Think about this family losing their young child to this criminal who the prosecutor just turned loose. So let me ask the parents listening right now and grandparents, anyone with a young child in your family. How do you feel knowing that this could happen in America today? It could happen in your neighborhood. It could happen at your local mall. You go to the mall, grab a coffee, sit down while your kids play, and then boom, some man snatches your child while you look the other way for 2 seconds. And it can happen quickly. And you find out that he shouldn't have been there to begin with. He should have been in jail. That's not justice. That is just simply insanity. But this is the reality across blue counties and soft on crime jurisdictions all over the country. It's the same ideology that lets shoplifters walk free if the loot is under $1,000. Just let them walk into the store and grab what they want to and walk out the door. You can't do anything about it. It turns felonies into misdemeanors to reduce prison populations. It claims that bail is racist while repeat offenders terrorize communities. It's the same pattern from San Francisco to New York, from Chicago to, yes, Fairfax County, Virginia. And it always ends the same way. More crime, more victims, less accountability. You know, this is a crazy show today. I admit it. As I've kind of gotten into it, I just realized that on Thankful Thursday, there's a lot of bad news today. I mean, grab your cup of coffee and buckle up, because this is exactly the kind of story, this next one, that exposes just how far our country has drifted from common sense and the rule of law. I mean, we started out talking about this guy who tried to snatch the kid in a mall in Virginia. I mean, just how crazy that is. We started the show today about the soldier down in Georgia turning a gun on his fellow soldiers, shooting 5, and just how upside down our country is. Well, this next one is just as crazy. 16 illegal immigrants, 16 that we know of, were taken into custody yesterday morning during a DHS immigration raid at a Home Depot parking lot in Los Angeles. You'd think rounding up illegal migrants with potential gang ties in an area controlled by MS-13. And as we've gotten into this story and we've learned since the raid yesterday, the reason they had this raid at this particular area is because it's known that the MS-13 gang has tried to take over this area of Los Angeles. The same brutal gang known for machete murders and human trafficking. That would be someone that everyone could agree should not be there, right? Well, wrong. Not everybody was happy because instead of thanking federal agents for doing their job and restoring a bit of order to a lawless zone, here's what happened. After the raid yesterday, and by the way, it was kind of genius the way they did this. The DHS agents showed up in Penske trucks, the box-type trucks that I'm sure nobody even thought twice about showing up at a Home Depot. Those types of trucks show up every day to load lumber and supplies for jobs. So they showed up in the Penske trucks, except when they opened the back door, agents came out, and boy, if you see some of the photos and the videos that was posted, the illegals scattered because they knew what was about to happen. Innocent people do not run when law enforcement officers show up. Guilty ones do. And they were like a bunch of roaches just scattering everywhere. Well, again, you'd think that local officials would be happy that federal officials have shown up and taken the bad guys off their streets, right? Well, Karen Bass, the idiot mayor of Los Angeles, previously showed up at the same location during a prior raid and told federal agents to leave right now. Think about it. A sitting mayor literally tried to obstruct a federal immigration enforcement operation in a gang-infested area in her city, and she's upset with them, and she wants them to leave. I mean, that's not leadership. That is reckless political theater at the expense of public safety in her own city. So let's just be clear here. And we talked about, last week, 2 weeks ago, in the same general area of Los Angeles, the MacArthur Park area of L.A. It too is under the grip of MS-13. These are bad people. I mean, this is not speculation. We're seeing this. Even members of the L.A. law enforcement scene confirm this, but they have to be careful with what they say because the mayor will come down on them. And also DHS is confirming this. Instead of focusing on getting these dangerous criminals off the streets, California officials like Karen Bass and left-wing activists are more concerned with protecting the optics and appeasing their radical base. And just like clockwork, when this raid happened, some migrants scattered. A scene caught on video as federal agents rolled up in the unmarked trucks. Why? Because, again, they knew they weren't supposed to be there. This wasn't an oops, I forgot my visa. This is an area targeted by federal officials for one reason, because it's known to harbor dangerous criminals. And Karen Bass is upset that they're taking the criminals off her streets. So let's back up a minute. This is the United States of America, a sovereign nation with borders, laws, and allegedly elected officials who swore an oath to uphold those laws. But what we have in Los Angeles and some of the other big cities is a mayor telling federal law enforcement agents to stand down, get out of my city. We have protesters slashing tires, throwing objects at government vehicles, and rioting for days, all because our government is enforcing immigration law in a known MS-13 stronghold. If that doesn't make your blood boil, it should. And let's not forget, think about back in June, in the first of the summer, when the situation in L.A. got so out of control that local authorities refused to do their job. President Trump had to federalize the National Guard and deploy the Marines. I mean, we had the U.S. Marines deployed in an American city because the local government refused to protect its own citizens. The same Governor Gavin Newsom who trips over himself to defend sanctuary cities, had the audacity to criticize that move as if restoring law and order is somehow a federal overreach. I've said it before. I'm going to repeat myself. When Democrat officials shield illegal aliens, especially those affiliated with violent criminal networks, they're not acting out of compassion. They're acting out of ideological obsession and political self-interest. They care more about pleasing activists in their party than protecting their very own citizens, the people who elected them to lead their city. So let me ask you, how many more children have to be targeted by human traffickers before we're going to wake up? How many more gangland murders have to be taking place in broad daylight and nobody can stop them? How many more citizens have to be victimized before someone in leadership, like Mayor Karen Bass, grows a spine? How many more carloads of fentanyl are going to be brought into our country only to see some of our young people dying of overdoses? Now, don't get me wrong. Not every illegal immigrant is a criminal. Well, actually, I guess they are a criminal, because once they come across our border illegally, that makes him a criminal. They're not a hardened criminal from the standpoint of that they've murdered somebody or they've broken in, or they've stolen something. When federal officials, though, and the people tasked with national security tell us that a location is under the control of MS-13 and the local government tells them to pack up and leave, and actually sets up an app. You have a group setting up an app that warns them ahead of time. Kind of like, what's that traffic app, Wise, that you can have alerts and it'll tell you if there's a traffic stop or if there's a speed trap ahead of you. Same thing. An app that warns illegals that there's law enforcement in the area. And they think it's okay. Some of these local officials, like Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom, they think it's okay. You want to know, though, what this should look like if Karen Bass really wanted to do what's best for the people of Los Angeles? It's what DHS did yesterday morning. They quietly, focused, and went about their job, went about their duty. There was no grandstanding, no press conferences. They just showed up in an area known to be gang infested. And they did their job. 16 people taken off the streets, potentially saving who knows how many lives down the road. You'll never know what some of those gang members could have done. That's how it should be. But instead, we've got elected officials actively interfering with enforcement. And worse yet, a mainstream media that acts like any effort to restore law and order is some sort of fascist power grab. And they want to make the people who want to enforce the law, they want to make Donald Trump the bad guy because he simply has closed our borders. And he's deporting the bad guys. Here's a thought. If California's officials don't want to enforce federal immigration law, maybe they shouldn't receive federal funding. Not an original idea. President Trump's already threatened that. You don't get to be a sanctuary city and a federal handout recipient at the same time. That's not how this should work. And I really do hope that rather than threatening to withhold federal dollars, that the Trump administration will make some examples out of some of these areas. And why not start with Los Angeles, right? I mean, truly withhold their federal dollars until they start supporting federal law enforcement officers to round up these illegals, these illegal criminals, and get them out of our country. Lawlessness is not compassion. So hats off to DHS for having the courage to do what many officials refuse to do, and to the citizens of Los Angeles, especially those living near MacArthur Park, or especially those living near this Home Depot. I'm told that the Home Depot continued business as normal. The employees just got back to work. Bit of excitement there for a minute, but they went back to work. What am I missing here? Text me, email me, joeyhudson.com. Leave me a quick message on the MyPillow message line. Always use promo code Joey when you go to mypillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Take advantage of Mike Lindell's special offer right now. The classic MyPillow, only $19.98. You can get a queen size for $24.98 and a king size for $29.98. Always use promo code Joey to get these great prices at mypillow.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, Joey at joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Multiple breakdowns in safety protocol and the way ammunition was handled led to the shooting and severe injury of 2 deputies in Greenville County last week. We have the latest from Sheriff Hobart Lewis in just a minute. First off, though, this week we've talked quite a bit about Texas and the legislature and the fact that the entire Democrat caucus fled the state to Illinois to delay a vote in the Texas legislature that will finalize the congressional district mapping, which gives the GOP 5 new potential districts in the state. The Democrats are calling foul because redistricting actually isn't due for another few years, but the law allows the legislature to redraw the map anytime they want. They just have to do it by a certain date. Well, the Democrats, they're holding out. They think if they just stay out of town that the Republicans just won't take this vote. And by the way, there was a report from Illinois yesterday. Police said that they responded to, quote, a report of a potential bomb threat at the Q Center Hotel and Convention Complex, 7:15 a.m. Central Time yesterday in St. Charles, which is a suburb west of Chicago. They said that they conducted a thorough search along with the Kane County Sheriff's Office bomb squad and found no device. Now, why is this important? Because evidently this is where the Texas Democrats are hiding out, and they were evacuated from their hotel. They got up early yesterday, whether they wanted to or not. St. Charles Police Department wrote, in response to the threat, 400 people were immediately evacuated, and the area was secured as bomb squad units conducted their investigation. Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker wrote on X that threats of violence will be investigated and those responsible will be held accountable. He's one to be talking about accountability. He should run the Texas Democrat legislators back to Texas and tell them to do their job. So now this has other states thinking about the whole idea of redrawing their maps. Let's swing back to the Palmetto State, my home state of South Carolina, where Congressman Ralph Norman, who just announced that he's running for governor, is saying, hey, maybe we need to do this. Maybe South Carolina should do this, using the majority power that we have in both the state House and state Senate to redraw the maps and take back control of the only Democrat district, congressional district that is, in South Carolina. Norman's calling for the South Carolina legislature to finally redraw the state's congressional districts in such a way that we have 7 congressmen and not gerrymander, so that there's one lone Democrat district that allows Jim Clyburn to remain in Congress. Clyburn, of course, was Joe Biden's best buddy, the man who rescued Biden's campaign in 2020 and helped usher in all the economic chaos and open border nonsense that we're having to deal with right now. It is an interesting idea, isn't it? To think that we could just, our legislature could just go back in and redraw the district and not have to. I mean, have you ever looked at Jim Clyburn's congressional district? It takes some effort to draw a district that's Democrat in South Carolina now. And it looks like a mess, the way it jigs and jags all around in order to keep it Democrat friendly. Maybe Representative Norman has a point there. Maybe so. All right, so back to last week when the Greenville County Sheriff's Office was holding a training exercise and 2 deputies were shot and injured. At a press conference, Sheriff Hobart Lewis said a breaching round, which is used to break through doors and windows, had mistakenly been placed into the training exercise. The deputies who were shot by the breaching round during this training scenario when it should have been a blank, should not have been a live round. Lewis blamed the mistake on deputies using ammo pulled from a desk drawer and stored in a clear plastic baggie rather than ammo properly stored in the armory, he said. Deputies also failed to properly test the ammo before it was used. Sheriff Lewis repeatedly called the incident a very unfortunate situation, took full responsibility for the breakdown. When asked, what you can do to keep this from happening again and what his response was when he learned about it, here's the sheriff.
I mean, what can you do? You got 2 deputies in the hospital. Let's get to the bottom of it. I think my immediate reaction was, let's figure out how this happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. Where we failed is these were stored in a desk drawer, and somebody said, hey, I'm looking for blanks. Somebody pulled these out and said, I think I got these. We went outside and test fired them, not like we would normally do. Whether it was a time issue and we rushed that, we're still getting to the bottom of that, to be quite honest.
Sheriff Lewis says they're still looking into it and said, hey, there's not an excuse. The deputy's injuries were severe, he said. One who required surgery and nearly died after an artery was severed by the breaching round. Both have now been released from the hospital and are expected to make a full recovery, according to the sheriff. So far, no criminal charges have been filed, and the sheriff said they most likely will not be filed. He said he expects disciplinary action to be taken. It's not yet clear what action could look like or who would be punished. Lewis also said the sheriff's office is reviewing its safety policies and making changes. He said the sheriff's office will not, however, ask an outside group to review its policies. Lewis said the department has qualified personnel to do that in-house. During the news conference, he said, we commit to full transparency and to correcting the failures that led to this. The July 29th exercise, again, was part of a routine biweekly training that's conducted with the SWAT team. It was held at a vacant building along Wadehampton High School in Greenville. Sheriff Lewis said deputies were clearing rooms at the vacant building as part of a role-playing exercise when they encountered deputies acting as suspects. As instructed, one of the suspects, armed with a 12-gauge shotgun, fired at the deputies. It quickly became apparent that the round fired was not a blank, however. One deputy was struck in the groin area while the other was hit in the side. Emergency personnel quickly performed life-saving measures, they said. And again, just a blessing from God that these 2 men are going to be okay. According to the sheriff, normally ammunition is required to be stored in the armory at the sheriff's office. It's supposed to be clearly labeled, and live rounds and training rounds are stored separately. In this case, deputies used ammunition pulled from a desk drawer in an unlabeled plastic bag, like a sandwich baggie, he said. Why this ammo was stored this way remains unclear, and the sheriff said that they're still investigating further to try to make that determination. When deputies tested the ammo to ensure it was a blank, they did so from a distance too far away to determine whether it was a blank or a breaching round, he said. It's not yet clear why deputies failed to properly test the rounds as well. It was a comedy of errors. they made a mistake by pulling the ammo from the wrong place to begin with. And then secondly, they didn't test it properly. And 2 deputies almost lost their lives. But again, God was watching over them. Thank goodness. And I saw photos, and the sheriff had a couple of the rounds and the live rounds on a table showing them. And the breaching rounds look very similar to the blanks, but they pack a punch. They are live ammo. They're designed to break through doors and windows. Sheriff Lewis said that his office is reviewing its safety protocols and plans to institute changes likely to be implemented later this month after being cleared by the agency's lawyers. Until then, shotguns will not be used during their training exercises, he said. One immediate step is ensuring ammunition, again, is not stored outside of the armory and that it's very well labeled. Again, glad these men are going to be okay. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.